Welcome to the September 26th planning board meeting. Allison?
Bastian.
Here.
Knauer.
Here.
Tidings.
Here.
Nursingers here. Sangster.
Here.
Weiser.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're taking a break until Zach comes back in so we can get started.
Very
He's talking to Jim right now. We're ready to go.
Just received word that board member Burton will be late, but is on his way to the meeting.
He forgot.
On his way to the meeting.
Got tied up.
I'm here.
Do you want to hold off on talking to about the minutes until last?
Yeah, we'll hold off on going through the minutes
Okay.
until Burton's here. So if we hold off on the minutes, we can jump into the tabled items on the agenda. All right then. First one is always, there are no updates right now to Bayview Landing, so at this time the board can take no action as we've been doing until we receive further updates on that. Okay. So we'll move on to 1843 Empire Boulevard, the Verizon cell sites that's at the back of the property. This is Charlie's Restaurant. They proposed for a equipment and shelter at the rear of the property. Requires a little expansion of the pad itself out there, expansion of the fence area. They have been tabled before this board since the public hearing a couple months ago. Applicant has provided all the revised plans the board and the town has requested, and last week at the Zoning Board of Appeals September 19th meeting, the zoning board granted the variances for less setback to the rear property line. So that wrapped up their application with the zoning board, and staff has since, from the board's recommendations, prepared a Part 2 EAF and a draft approval resolution. Now that they're through the zoning board and the board has been relatively comfortable with everything the applicants presented so far, staff's in good shape with them as well. So I'll ask the board if there are any closing questions or further discussion on the matter.
I don't have anything.
No, I think we got everything we were looking for. I'll
So we have the
motion to
EAF.
approve the EAF.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, Bastian.
Aye.
Knauer.
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
And motion to approve the approval resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, Bastian.
Aye.
Knauer.
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
All right. Second tabled application. Doug, actually, could you pull this one up? Glendevere's, please. So our another table application is the Glendevere's parking expansion. The board's been reviewing this. They're also before the town board currently to review the proposed site work within the right-of-way. Town board met at its previous work session meeting. Applicant was present there to discuss the improvements and what sort of remediation would be involved, or other improvements such as landscaping or the final grading of it. The town board gave the applicant the direction to provide a cross-section drawing of what the final grade of what is kind of like a berm, more or less, along the right-of-way is going to look like. And Doug just pulled this up. The town board's going to see this tomorrow, and the town engineer is going to discuss the matter with them at the meeting. If the town board has any additional recommendations for the work within the right-of-way, the PRC did provide a memo to the town board as well, suggesting some additional parking in the right-of-way for the trailhead that's over there. So the town board will review that matter.
Okay.
And pending the outcome of the discussion with the town board, we'll probably see some revised plans following that meeting from the applicant that will incorporate the PRC's memos, all the technical details in that, as well as what the town board will require for the work within the right-of-way. So at this time, there isn't a whole lot for the planning board to review. It is kind of the applicant's waiting to see what happens with the town board until they can find out more there.
Based on that,
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to just table it.
very good.
I'll second.
Bastian?
Aye.
Canower?
Aye.
Tidings?
Aye.
All right. Our next tabled application is for 2775 Penfield Road. It is for the single-family home in the RA2 district for Mr. Hagenovic. At the board's last meeting, it completed the seeker review process and adopted a negative declaration for the type 1 action. That NIDEC has since been passed on to the DEC environmental notice bulletin board. Sorry about that. And that will be published on the DEC's website shortly. Since then also, the zoning board has met on the 19th. They approved the applicant's request for less setbacks to the front and rear property lines because the unique shape of the property is, as we've seen with this application throughout, it has a very wide frontage along Penfield Road. However, it's not very deep. But the zoning board has gone through its process and has approved those variances. So the applicant now is left with revising their engineered site plan to address the drainage details that have yet to be incorporated on it. We saw it on a landscape plan that was provided by the applicant. It still was incomplete. They have the direction from both town staff and the board to revise their engineered drawings to include the drainage plans. It included a dry well and some swales to treat all of the runoff that's being generated on the property and come back to the town and the board with that revised plan for our final review. So with that being said, there aren't too many other things to review on this one at this time. Seeker is completed, however, it's just a matter of reviewing the final site plan with those drainage details I mentioned before. Are there any questions from the board right now?
So we're just waiting on engineered site plan.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And with the removal of that existing barn, there's no proposal to replace that?
Thank you for pointing that out. I should have mentioned that. The zoning board, part of its conditions of approval was to remove the existing barn structure that is a pre-existing non-conforming structure because of its proximity to the road and the right-of-way and the size of the lot. The zoning board made a condition that that barn be demolished before any final C of O is granted for the single-family home.
And as far as we know, there won't be a replacement for that barn on the property?
No, there would not be a replacement for it due to the size of it.
Yeah.
Minimum
Okay.
lot size requirement in the RA2 is a 5-acre property for any barn structures of that nature.
Okay. Well, with that, I move to continue to table.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Bastian?
Aye.
Canower?
Aye.
Tidings?
Aye.
Okay. And the final table matter is the sketch plan application that was heard at the board's last meeting on the 14th regarding 2316 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road for a proposed law office in the B&R district. It's in the location of 250 that's south of 441 as you're kind of almost leaving town, basically, very near the town border. Applicant made its presentation for the proposed law office building. The public had comments, the board had comments and concerns. However, the board decided to table the matter so that it could review more of the public comments in depth between the last meeting and this one, and staff could begin the preparation of a draft sketch plan review letter. So since then, the board has provided the draft meeting minutes to capture the public's comments and concerns, along with the board's questions that were presented during the meeting, and a draft sketch plan letter was also included for the board's review leading up to this meeting. Some highlights from that letter. As we know from that meeting, the board did have concerns about the overall size of the building, concerns about the setbacks to the front and side property lines, had concerns for the parking figures that were being proposed, and also was trying to anticipate the stormwater management needs for the property. Obviously, those are typically not seen at this stage of development, but it's worth noting because of the stream that's at the back of the property, as well as the stream buffer that's part of this. There's a 75-foot from the center of the stream, 75-foot buffer into the property that the town has in what's called the environmental EPOD overlay district, and we typically try to avoid doing any disturbance to the EPOD area there. However, it's understandable that there would have to be some disturbance for projects like this on a property this size. With that being said, again, the draft sketch plan letter was provided to the board. I'd open it up for a discussion for any thoughts, comments, additional edits to the sketch letter that you feel is necessary, and we can take those notes.
You covered the parking, parking
Forward.
lights, the drainage, the setback, the size of the building. Trying to think of what else was in the
Line of sight.
line of sight. Particularly the front setback in case there's any widening of 250 through there.
Yes.
So,
And we did make a couple edits today and provided that to the board as well. Or actually, it was yesterday, I believe, we made some edits that we looked back into the town board rezoning resolution of this property and the properties of this section of 250 in the B&R district. It emphasizes a couple things in the rezoning resolution, as it did in several of the B&Rs, but this one's specific due to the residential properties at the rear. On page 2 of the resolution, I handed a copy out to all the board members, and Doug, if you want to pull that up on the screen.
In the active projects?
Yep, should be in the active projects folder. Just down 2 folders from where you are. Perfect, and if you go to page 2 at the bottom, right at 6A is where they begin with some of the more details about rezoning. Because B&R is adjacent to a residential area, it's the R120 area, there's always a buffer between commercial and residential. It's a 50-foot buffer area. The town board, when it rezoned these properties, emphasized to ensure that vegetation is either maintained or improved in these buffers to residential, so that residentially zoned properties don't have as much of an impact from commercial uses. Part of that section there in 6A also refers to the front setbacks. The town board, in its resolution, acknowledged that the B&R district calls for an 80-foot front setback, but was willing to modify that setback so that any redevelopment could be permitted to maintain, ideally, a 50-foot front setback.
And the first informal meeting that you had with the applicant was at 40 foot?
Yes, and we've approved, and the zoning board did approve area variances for other B&R projects for a front setback of 40 feet as well on Penfield Road. So there is history with that. Although this calls 50, there have been instances where 40 was granted. So yeah, that document does capture a lot of what. One of the public comments was, what's the picture for, what kind of picture are we trying to paint for the B&R district in this part of town? And this kind of lays out for the board to consider with all these redevelopment applications about buffer to residential, the setbacks, cross access, elimination of curb cuts as much as possible, So I want to provide that for the board, reference it in the sketch letter, and provide it as an attachment to the applicant as well for their reference when they review that.
In the rezoning, number 4 basically says you're going to have one access point for those businesses with an access road, but we didn't talk about that last time.
No, that is tough to
We touched on
incorporate into this
cross-access easement. and
We
the
did.
the shared parking.
We
that they're
did.
Presumed to be behind.
But this is saying they're going to have a single point of entry egress and...
Which is kind of consistent with other.
Right, which we've done with other, the opposite of New Wickham
Correct.
Drive.
right.
So that's pretty much,
And it's a vision that they're seeing there, but it's all based on the time at which properties are redeveloped. So it's hard to put it on this property to, eliminate any curb cuts with this
This
application.
property really doesn't have the width to accommodate
No,
major access for the service road behind.
no, but there's potential in the future to, relay out some of the access roads and allow for more space there. Line it up with New Wickham perhaps. It all depends on what happens to the north and south in future development.
right.
So
right.
at this time, it's tough to envision that, put that pen to paper to really make it, to see it on a plan, but it's certainly something that will be considered as we see more applications come in this area.
And the access road they're talking about would be in the rear, or would it be in the front?
Yeah, there on the site plan that's shown between the last 2 rows of parking is a proposed cross-access
Okay.
easement. It's not like a driveway that we've seen on 441 that is more separate from the parking. This is incorporated within it, again, due to the unique layout here. Obviously, as you go north, the other properties within the B&R are much deeper. So to try and, again, envision what's going to be there, the applicant's proposed a layout that can kind of set the path forward or best incorporate it into future development.
Okay.
It's a unique site. So are there any revisions to the sketch letter that the board would like to discuss or review?
I'm all set.
I read the letter, I thought it was good.
Struck through.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. If that's the case, just look for a motion from the board to issue the sketch letter to the applicant.
I'll second.
Sorry, Burton, you were the one who motioned?
Yep.
Bastian?
Aye.
Burton?
Aye.
Knauer?
Aye.
Tidings?
Aye.
All right, guys. So we will send off that sketch letter to you this week. You have that to review it. If you have questions, feel free to contact us, and review that and determine if you want to move forward with the project for preliminary final review. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
We can answer, or
I'm all
I
set.
guess we don't
No.
really have any.
No, I think we're all set. But thank you for coming tonight to hear the discussion. Though.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
The last thing that we held off on the minutes. Got through our other table applications, but the minutes are the last thing to address on this evening's meeting. I want to make sure everyone was present here for that. Any questions, comments, concerns, amendments to the minutes as written?
I already addressed my questions. Sorry, Nancy.
So we can take those comments that
With a
We
grain of
received-
salt, as they say.
we received earlier,
Yes.
and we can incorporate those into the minutes as amended then. Very good.
Good to go.
All right, we just have a vote for that.
So moved.
Second.
Bastian?
Aye.
Burton?
Aye.
Knauer?
Aye.
Tidings?
Aye.
All right. What did I have left? Oh, while we're all here, I just wanted to, on the agenda with comments, I did include a brief overview of the applications that will be brought to you in October. There are 5 applications. Where my agenda comments went, but hey, there we go. Thank you. 5 applications coming in, and Doug, if you want to...
I can pull them up on the map and the plans from the active projects.
Okay, yeah, just give you an overview, but not too many questions. First the sketch plan applications for a 17-lot residential subdivision at 1698 Creek Street. Doug's gonna, let's just go right with the plans and make it quicker for you. So this is it's about a 17-acre parcel. They have not proposed a cluster plan. The lot really doesn't allow for it in its layout. Staff is reviewing this right now, and PRC comments are gathered and will be issued shortly. There is an existing home at the southwest corner there that is to be maintained as one of the 17 lots. See, drainage pond will be included, and we have our remaining 16 lots there on the plan. So we'll see a sketch plan application for this again at 1698 Creek Street.
Is that the old ostrich farm?
No, this is
it's
east
back
side
up
of the
to Bunker
road.
Hill. The Bunker
Bunker
Hill.
Hill, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Barn,
so
is the barn in there? Is that like a...
That's coming down.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Oh, that 2-story barn. Yeah, that's existing. Those will come down.
Last year? or-
That's actually not.
Hard to believe
Not
there's
part of the
That's
that much
different
of land
parcel.
on Creek. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Alright.
It is one of the remaining
Oh,
large
okay,
acres
yeah.
parcels on Creek
No,
Street.
no.
Yeah,
Got
You
it.
get to be his age.
the property that is that.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it?
Forget where you're supposed to be on certain nights.
It's Thursday, right? It's Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
I know these Tuesdays mess me up.
Yeah, it's gonna throw everything off the rest of the week. We have a preliminary final application for a 2-lot subdivision at 1830 Sweets Corners Road. This was previously known as the Arena Project. Now the Arena subdivision. We did I believe this was an administrative.
2014.
Yeah, I think this was an administrative application at the time. I can't remember if the planning board saw it.
That would have been preliminary final
Not if it was one lot.
or one lot. Never mind.
But anyways, existing home, existing barn that the owner uses it for horse training for the most part, private horse training.
When
And-
that other, I'm sorry, when that other property was purchased, were those 2 lots merged?
That was all one parcel to begin with. There was a condition of the approval that the front house was used as kind of like a construction office, more or less. It wasn't to be occupied as a residence. Now they're to the point where the house is occupied, the barn's everything they want it to be. Now they're looking to break off the front of the front parcel there as a compliant 2-acre lot for a single-family home again.
Okay.
And then we have preliminary final application for Kidtopia Daycare, 1280 Creek Street. We reviewed this as a sketch plan earlier this year. It's back for preliminary final.
Okay.
Plan is pretty much the same as it was before.
That's gonna need a size variance,
Which part?
this.
Oh, yeah, the proposed size,
It's
yes.
12,000 square foot versus
It's down to
8,000.
10 now, but yes, it is the square footage of the daycare is larger than what's allowed by code.
Okay. That's the one I remember.
Yep, and now they have the full engineered package. We have more building
Okay.
elevations. They'll be providing building sample materials and all that fun stuff that we usually see. The 4th application is the final site plan approval for Watersong Subdivision Phase 5. This is the western portion of Watersong. As you come in, it's your first right, and it dead ends right now, but they're looking to build that out, leading into Section 4 that was previously approved by the board, I believe in 2013 or 14. And Doug has it on the plan here. You can see the homes, there are 20 new lots as part of the subdivision. No changes to the layout of the subdivision, again coming in for final site plan approval. And the final one, the India Community Center for their day camp program. They're coming into with a proposed modification, or rather an expansion to their conditional use permit for the day camp program to allow more campers there during their camp during the summer months. And they're working with the health department and the fire marshal to review the proposed numbers. But right now we do have an application to review both, again, the number of campers there as well as the hours of operation that are permitted under the conditional use permit. So no physical improvements, sheerly reviewing the conditional use permit that the board approved many years ago.
Do you know what the original one was for how many campers?
100?
100.
100, and they're requesting 150.
Where do they put them? No structures on there at all?
Yeah,
Outside.
that's right there.
No new structures. They, again,
They
they're
have
working.
6 existing cabins
Oh, okay.
behind the property.
Yep,
Oh,
and they're working with the health department to review the numbers.
Okay.
But that's what we have coming for October.
nice.
All right. Nothing else to discuss?
All right. Anybody have anything? Comments? Call it a night.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.